Hey there, my name's Alexander White. If you generally record your parts by layering them up one after the other, rather than recording all the band all at once, so maybe you do drums and bass and guitar, or maybe you start with guitar and add the drums later, then this video is for you. What I have is a really lovely technique which helps you make sure that as you're stacking those parts, or rather as you're recording those parts in, you're going to be able to make sure that they fit in the mix. Because of course they're very out of context. So sometimes you're going to get into that mix and you're going to discover that the part that you've recorded sounds great in solo, but doesn't quite work as you started to layer up the other instruments. Maybe it's too trebly, too bassy, and sure, you can try and EQ, but I bet you've run into the problem where you try to EQ a microphone, and although it does darken or brighten it, it doesn't quite have the right feel. Well, what I'm going to show you today is how to blend dark and bright mics together to not only give you that mix flexibility. So essentially it's kind of like having a real life microphone EQ. But also I've got another tip for you which really helps you in your production and arrangements. I've recorded two things for you today. An electric guitar with both sort of a clean, well, dirty clean sound and then a full-on overdriven sound, and also an acoustic guitar. So I'm going to start with the acoustic guitar. First of all, just to let you know how I recorded this, it was a ribbon microphone, the Royer R10, you can see that just down here, and also the Universal Audio SP1. So that's a small diaphragm condenser microphone. So really we're talking about pretty much two ends of the spectrum on bright and dark. The SP1 is going to be a very fast mic, so in other words it's going to track the transients very quickly. The Royer is going to be a more natural sounding mic. It gives more honest transients rather than having any sort of sense of overshoot. It doesn't have any top end on the Royer R10. The SP1s have a lot of brightness. So let me show you what this sounds like with the two mics together first of all. Okay, nice, warm, clear acoustic sound. Sounds great in solo, but we've got no idea how that's going to work in a mix, except we've recorded a bright and a dark mic. Now let me play it back again, and I'm going to mute each of the microphones so you will hear the Royer and the SP1 separately, and listen out for the difference in the top end and the bottom end, okay? Oh, by the way, these microphones were sat right next to each other, so they don't really have any phase problems, or at least the phase problems are reduced as much as they possibly can be, so you're pretty much going to get a balanced sound from both of them. Here we go. Did you hear the difference there? The Royer R10 was much darker, the SP1 was much brighter. And what's wonderful here is not only does that give you an option in the mix, you could simply mute the Royer and have the brightness of the SP1, or mute the SP1, sure you can do that, but more excitingly, let me show you what happens when you simply start to move these faders around, and listen to the range of tonality that you get from these two microphones. Do you hear how you can get a little bit more brightness, a little bit more earthiness from the ribbon, something in between, just by playing around with those faders? It's like you're doing this with your EQ, It's like you're creating all these wonderful shapes, but it sounds so natural because it's just two mics interacting with each other. Absolutely, you will get some phase interplay, so there's going to be a little bit of sort of filtering of some frequencies happening, but all this just sounds so musical. So that's one wonderful thing about using the bright and dark mic on acoustic guitar. Exactly the same thing with the electric guitars. I'm going to open these up, and first of all we'll have a listen to the sort of dirty clean. Here it comes. Now let's just do the A-B between the two microphones, starting off with the Roya. Big difference between those two microphones. And again, let's do the blend and just see the difference that it makes when you sort of find different spots for these two microphones blend-wise. It's, again, massive. I'm going to play a little bit more with this because I don't think I quite did enough on the Roya R10, and I really want you to hear the differences that these two microphones can make together. It just simply lets you decide how much bass content or treble content you want in your signal, as well as giving you slight variations on that tone. Really mixable. It's a fantastic way of making sure that you're covering yourself when you're recording, getting a great tone with the two mics, so you can't be lazy. You can't just throw a bright mic and a dark mic up and hope for the best. Still spend time getting those two mics in the right position. But since they are adjacent, you sort of treat them like one mic almost. So just simply move them around until you find a nice position, and away you go. Now, there's another part of this that I want to show you, which is the very distorted guitars, because this is a different sound again. So let's listen to it first of all together. Massive sound. That could work totally legit in a mix, but maybe you want it a bit darker. Well, let's listen to what happens when we bring more of the R10 in. Now let's lean on the SP1. That's leaning more heavily on the SP1. I'll play it again and I'll hit that mute button on that Roya R10, and you'll be able to hear how much that is actually contributing to the overall sound. You know, the SP1 is an okay sound, but it's quite bright and quite brittle. Just allowing a little bit of that R10 to come in really makes that bassy kind of warmth support the SP1, which is, of course, quite bright, could work really well in quite a hard rock kind of setting, or maybe even metal setting. So two microphones, bright and dark, blended together as almost like a fancy EQ, really makes a big difference. But there's one other thing that I want to share with you, which is how you can actually use these two mics to basically bring a little something into a part, even if you choose one mic. So let's start with the clean, well, the dirty clean, on the SP1. So first of all, you could just pick this mic in the mix and go, that's great, let's use that one. But a really cool thing you can do is if you wanted that section to gradually increase in energy, you can slowly automate the other microphone into the mix. Let's see how that would sound. It gives you a really fun crescendo. The whole energy increases, but it sounds so natural. It's not just turning the microphone up, as in the SP1 up. It's not just turning your main mic up to get a boost. It kind of adds complexity. Exactly the same with the acoustic guitar. Let's go back to the acoustic guitar. And maybe we choose the Roya R10 for a nice warm acoustic. Let me just turn that up a bit. After listening to the electric, it seems a little quiet. Let's just start it up here. It's a really natural way to bring excitement in because yes, of course, it adds extra volume, but it's also adding extra brightness. It's adding a different texture because that microphone has such a different texture to the R10. So really exciting ways of being able to record if you're layering, and having to worry less about whether the tone you're capturing is really going to fit into the mix later. No, you've got a great, essentially, almost like shelving EQ, you know, brightness, bass, treble and bass. And you've kind of got this on 2 microphones. So see how that works in your mix. I would love to hear from you. Please do click like and subscribe. And if you want to know more about mixing, head over to my website, which is recordwithalex.com, and I have a free mixing guide for you there. Just go grab it. It's got a ton of information in it. It's actually a little bit more in depth than usual, and I've given loads of different ideas in there. So it's a great little resource to just have on your side on the desk and just, you know, grab hold and open up or whatever. So go and grab that, and I am really excited to see you on another video next week. Thank you for watching.